Hello and welcome everyone to the next Foreman Community Demo, this time with video. Hey guys, how you doing? Do you like my dinosaurs? Awesome. So we've got a packed show for you today. I'm going to crack right on with it because I think we're going to struggle to get it into the total of an hour, and I know we have a couple of presenters who have to leave fairly sharply. So without further ado, what do we have to talk about this September demo? Well, there's quite a lot. We've got the release candidate of 1.13, first release out this week. We've got some stuff on roles. We've got some stuff on compute resources. We have some Ansible. We have a lot of Patello. These guys have been busy, as you'll see in the stats. And a grab bag of other things like Infobox, proxy, some Puppet UI stuff. Lots and lots of things to show you today. Very quickly on 1.13, lots of new things here. IPv6 support, very big for some people. If you're using IPv6 in your networks, please do test that and let us know how that's working out for you. Big thanks to Timo and the rest of the team that wrote and tested that. We've got performance improvements in the DHCP proxy. If you have got large subnets, this should be a massive improvement for you. Dimitri is on the call for something else a bit later on, but with a little bit of luck, he might actually give us a quick overview of that as well if we talk to him nicely. We have got UEFI support. We have got lots of stuff about UEFI support, but that was in the last demo, so if you didn't see it, go check it out. We've got Puppet fact support. This is the structured facts in factor 2.0 and upwards. We can now support those properly, and a bunch of updates for OpenStack Liberty. So if any of that is your bag, please do go check it out, test it. We need to hear your feedback. We want solid releases, and there's a lot of new stuff here. Your testing is massively appreciated, as always. So very quickly, the usual metrics. Packages haven't really changed. It's 7K, down 1K from last month, but I'm not counting 111. So if you put that back in, it's pretty much exactly the same. Nice to see already in just 3 days, we've already got 40-odd downloads of RC1. So hopefully people are enjoying playing with that already. As I said, let us know how you find that. Plugins haven't really changed, other than that I noticed the metrics are being generated for 6 months instead of 1 month, so these numbers look a bit lower than last time. But as I've always said about download metrics, don't look at the numbers, look at the trends, and this looks relatively similar. Honorable mentions to Ansible, to DigitalOcean, and a few others that didn't quite make it onto the table. Redmine, I mentioned last time that my scripts for generating this data was wrong and that it wasn't calculating the bugs opened correctly. I have now fixed that as of this morning. So these numbers are correct, but I have blanked out the change value because obviously it wouldn't make a lot of sense to compare this to last time where the values were being calculated wrong. So you'll see these are broadly comparable now. It's not vastly smaller in the opened category versus the closed category. It's busy, I think is all we can safely say here. 25% bug lift in the Redmine area of the community, so that's really great to see. Do keep reporting those bugs. I know it feels like a trivial thing, but it is a very, very valued contribution. We wouldn't know what was wrong otherwise. GitHub, very similar. Again, I said how the opened values were wrong for the same reason. And so I fixed that. And again, you can see these are broadly comparable. As I mentioned at the beginning, Patello have been hugely busy this month. Oh my goodness, that's just a big number. So we'll hear lots from the Patello team as we go through the demo. But again, really the takeaway here is we're busy. There's lots going on, and you'd expect that coming up to a release as well. So that's all I'm going to say about the community metrics. I do have a couple of things of my own to add right at the end, but I will stop boring you, and I'm going to hand over to our presenters. So first up, we've got Ivan, who's going to give us a few updates. So Ivan, it's all yours if you're ready. Yeah, here he comes. You don't appear to have any audio, Ivan. I can see that you're unmuted, but I'm not actually hearing you. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Nope, no, I think we have issues. Ivan, I'm just gonna, I know you need to go pretty quickly, but I'm gonna move on to Daniel and we'll come back to you in just a sec. So Daniel then, a quick one from you on organizations and locations, I think.
Sure. Let me share the screen. Okay. All right. So one of the features that Marek was working on was adding. Sorry, it's kind of stuck right now. Doing something. Wait. One of the features that we've been wanting to have for some. Sure.
Make it a bit bigger. It's a bit on the small side.
Sure. So one of the features that we want to have for some time is to have roles that apply only to an organization. So if you are, let's say, in organization, okay, let's say you're in organization E Corp, you would only see, well, you would not see any proxies in this view because there are no proxies in that organization. So that works, but you couldn't, well, the only way you could scope roles by organizations would be by going to the particular filters and writing in the filter so that the filter, in this case, for instance, view architectures is scoped by location or organization, or well, architecture wouldn't work, but smart proxy, I think that would work. So in that case, you could say organization something, then do this filter. Well, that's very tedious if you have roles like manager, which might be composed of a lot of filters. You can't go, well, you could, but it takes a long time to go through maybe 33 filters to change the location and organization scoping in each of them. And if you have several organizations, it's even more annoying. So what Marek has been working on is basically adding this two fields here, locations and organizations. Now, if you choose if you choose some organizations and locations here, as the information says here, the filters will be automatically scoped by that. So in this case, it would be scoped. All of the resources that can be scoped would be scoped by location Czech Republic and organization E Corp. And what's also interesting is that you can you can edit that manually. So let's go to some, you can override that for some filter if you need to. So let's go to some role that already has organizations and locations. So host group manager base. Now we have this host group filter here. Right now, it takes the role organizations, but if we go and edit the filter, okay, actually that one, yeah, host group is not a resource that you can overwrite. Oh, sorry, it is. All right, you click here on override, and now you have the organizations and locations here available as well. And you can either unscope it or scope it more. There's a bug on develop that I discovered when I was doing this demo that it only shows the top level location and top level organization. So we gotta fix that, but yeah, if you uncheck override, then it will take the filter will be using the location and organization that come from the role. I would have some information here, some help button here that tells you about it. Obviously, if you still want to use the search filter here and write location and organization, that still works. What else? And lastly, if you have let's say some filters and you have overridden the locations and organizations in a lot of them, then you clone the host or something, the role, you can disable the overriding of the location and organization in those filters by clicking at this button. That's basically it. If you want to get started to work with this, I would recommend you to just clone some of your existing filters, and let's call it Discovery Manager, I don't know, eCorp, and then you would just select that. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. I will have to admit that I once again forgot to give the viewers the important information at the beginning. If you do want to ask questions and get involved in the broadcast, you can hop into the #theforeman channel on Freenode to ask questions there. You can ping me on Twitter. You can try the YouTube Live thing. This is a new Hangout format we're using today. So sadly, the Google Q&A app is no more. So I would recommend using IRC if you definitely want to get my attention. I will try and pay attention to the other sources. However, for the moment, I don't see any questions for you, Daniel. I will say your audio is breaking up a little bit, particularly during page loads. Hopefully still people got most of the gist of that, but obviously they can always come and have a chat with you or Marek when he's back. So stick around. Ivan, how is your audio? Still no audio. That's not good. And I know you need to go. If you want, let me just check. You're not muted at any other end. Let's try this. How are you now? No, I'm afraid we're still not getting anything. Okay, I know you have to dash off, so maybe we'll get you another time. You can try rejoining, I guess. That might work as well. So very quickly then, let's move on to Toma. So Toma, you're going to talk to us about RAM fields, I think. Tell me what that's all about. You there, Toma? What is it with my presenters today? He's gone for a coffee, I think.
Oh, no, here I am.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry,
there
forgot to unmute. Do you see my screen now?
I get a green screen. Something is sharing, but it's not perhaps what you intended.
Try again. How about now?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, so I'm going to show something that another something that Marek worked on. It has to do with the way memory is selected for compute profiles. So those of you who used it probably remember there was a drop-down that had preset options, and you had to either choose one of those options or choose one of those options. So change Marek did is add a nice UI that you can just go up or down, and if you go above the recommended maximum for that compute resource, you get a nice little warning about it. And if you want to, you can also, for example, if you want 1.37 megabytes of memory, that's fine. You can just type that in and it works. It also works if you just type MB, it works just the same. And once you change it, you click on the arrows, it changes. And another thing, very hot off the oven, just got merged about 15 minutes ago, is a similar selector for CPUs that also gets rid of the drop-down and allows you to go up and down and see a warning when you go above the recommended maximum. This is currently only available for OVIRT and LibVirt, but I think those work on adding that for the rest of the compute resource providers as well. That's it on my part.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Looks good. We don't have any questions on that, although it's pretty self-explanatory, I guess. And I think we have audio from Ivan. Fantastic. Ivan,
hey.
Go.
I needed to log in and out from the environment, so let me just quickly look if I have my virtual machines running. I do have. Let me spawn a terminal. And I was running Toma, so my instances were actually there. So let me just log in into the
joys of live demos.
Yeah, and this is not the first issue I hit with this demo. So I'm really looking forward to file all these bugs after I finish the demo. Anyway, yeah, let's first start with the Ansible then. So in the past couple of weeks, we've been working. So I will share the screen. That's a good start. As long as I find where it is. Okay, it's still in the same place. Cool. So no Facebook. We want localhost. I'm not running HTTPS because I'm already on the video. So in past couple of weeks, we've been working on enabling running Ansible playbooks or the roles through the Ansible through the Foreman proxy. So to cover the case when you can have your host managed somewhere in some location that your foreman actually can't reach directly, and you have the Ansible set up on this remote location, and you want to just use the Foreman proxy to actually execute that. So we used a lot of stuff that we already had for the remote execution. So part of that was just extracting the code that we have for remote execution. I will increase the font a bit. So now I have a setup where I have the Ansible feature within the remote execution or within the smart proxy enabled. And when I go to some host and use the Ansible, run Ansible roles, let's see if nothing breaks after I need to log out. What it did, we can look into, you can see that it now uses the Foreman task and line flow, and you can see that after a while it executed something. I have some demo role to just say hello, but it tried to reach to this host. And if we go to the details of the line flow action, it actually shows that it was a proxy action, and it ran the proxy or ran through the Foreman proxy on this address. We can also go and say that we don't want to run it only on one host, on several ones. So the standard bulk actions work here as well. And we again go through the bulk actions that the Foreman task provide, and we go through the Foreman proxy. So that was one thing that we already did in with remote execution. And what we actually, how we extended that a bit is now you actually don't need the Foreman proxy to handle that. So let me just do quickly one thing, and that's disabling the Ansible feature from the proxy side, like this. And run the proxy again. So we wanted to cover the cases where you just install your Foreman and you are ready to give Ansible a try, and you don't want to start dealing with the smart proxy and set up on everything that involves with that. So now let's get into the case where I don't have the Ansible actually installed on the proxy, so we will not use the proxy at all. I can just prove it by turning off the proxy. And when I go back again to the host and around the Ansible roles, nothing should really change from the user point of view when you look at from the first look. But when you go into details, instead of the proxy action, we actually have the actual action running from the Foreman. So this is basically now transparent running of the actions either from the Foreman core or from the Foreman proxy, and we have the same support on the remote execution. So on the remote execution side, just to complete the thing, we have this thing disabled by default, because for people that are using already and expect to run that through the smart proxy, they probably would not expect that the main or the Foreman server would try to SSH to some services instead, or to manage host, but you can enable it in remote execution without proxy. And in that case, if you don't have the smart proxy with remote execution, so I have it here, so let's just give it a try. I will not demo the running with smart proxy, because you all already seen that before probably. So let's just disable the smart proxy, the SSH on the smart proxy. Fresh. So no SSH at all. And when I go and try to run some job on a remote host, we see that we succeeded, and again, when we go to look into the details, again, not proxy action, but actually the Foreman itself running that. So that's mainly for like enabling or making it easier to start using these features, both Ansible and remote execution, and they both use the same code for this execution. So that's pretty much it from the running through the proxy or through the Foreman server itself for Ansible and remote execution. So if there are any questions for this, you can ask now, or I will have another demo regarding the installer for Infobox, so we can maybe wait for the questions during that.
There's no questions just now, Ivan, so do carry on.
Okay. So the second thing is just quickly what we worked on the Infobox part. So as you probably know, the Infobox support for the Foreman was delivered or provided by our community in some time ago, but there was still some thing missing, and the main thing was just a bit refactoring and then actually delivering the packages and installer commands so that you can start using it when you use the installer and you use the recommended way how to install Foreman. So there will be new commands shortly in ITSM 1.13 that actually enable installing these features on the proxy. So let's look at how it looks like. So I had that in the history before I need to log out, but it's not a big deal because I can just do this and go to the projects. And I have actually the installer process saved here, so I'm safe for now. So let's try with the first commands that we have, which is enabling the DNS feature. So just really quickly through what you actually need to do to enable that. So first you need to say the Foreman that the installer to enable the DNS feature, and that you want the Infobox provider, and then you also enable the DNS Infobox plugin. But after that, you just specify a couple of configuration options. One is where your Infobox server is running, what username and password do you need, and this is pretty much it. And if you think that you can use these credentials to control my production setup, you can, because it's just a demo. So don't worry about that. So if you run that, you actually get the DNS enabled, and the Infobox should just start working, the integration with the DNS. and the same or similar thing applies for the DHCP support as well. So the config options are pretty much the same. The only thing is that we have a couple of other options there as well. Let's just see help on what are these, just for you to know. So we have two options. Additionally, one is the DHCP use ranges, which actually tells the Infobox proxy Infobox if it should search in defined ranges in the Infobox setup or not. And we have also another option to say which record type you want to create on the Infobox side, if you want to create the host type of records when creating the data on the Infobox side, or just fixed addresses. So this is just two additional options to the username and password that you can use. That's pretty much it. Like, not very big changes on the behavior of the Infobox, but there were some backend changes that you might be interested in, and they will be delivered as packages in month of 13, hopefully. So that's pretty much it.
Cool, thanks. Sorry. There was one question from Stephen, who is road testing the YouTube live chat. I know he's already had it answered in IRC, but just for the benefit of the video, the proxying of Ansible, it doesn't include Foreman in the load balancer, right? So if you've got multiple proxies and Foreman and all the proxies are down, the request will fail, yes?
Yes, so what it does, it does the same thing that the remote execution does, which means it looks at all the proxies available for the host with the feature and gets the status of if it's running and how many tasks it's actually running. And based on that, it tries to use those that are less used for the particular case. So sure. We basically do the same as remote execution and extracting the logic to the Foreman task. So if you are a developer needing for this kind of functionality, most of the things are already there, ready to use in other plugins as well.
Okay, thanks very much, Ivan. I know you've got to dash off, so we'll save questions for another time if there are any more. So thanks. Moving on, we're going to get on to the Patello section of the demo, I think. We've got a few people who want to talk about what they've been working on, and we're going to start with Justin. So if you're good to go, Justin.
Yep, you should be able to see my screen.
Yes, indeed.
And so this should be quick. As part of Patello, we handle errata, which you're looking at here is an Apache errata. It's basically bug fixes, security fixes, enhancements that were fixed as part of some packages, and in this case, Apache. And so what we do is we use Pulp to help which errata are applicable for a given system. So in this example, I've got my content host, or my host robot.example.com, and we see it's applicable to this errata. Sometimes some issue happens in the applicability process, and we need to force recalculate it. So we've now added this recalculate button, which I can just click, and it will take me to the task page, and that was very fast. But it basically recalculated the applicability for this host. And then the second thing I'm going to show is we are starting to add package applicability. So you can see which packages in a given repo are available to be upgraded for a host. And this is useful even in repositories that don't contain errata, such as or your own custom repo. And so far, we've only got an API added. But it's most of the back-end work. So we've added this API that will now show us that for this host, this package is available to be upgraded. And you should see in the near future Hammer support being added, UI support being added in a variety of places. So you'll really see this feature be built out. And that's really it.
Superb, thanks very much. I have a question on that one actually. Is the code that does those applicability calculations, is that RPM specific, or does it work for like the file resource types if you've got stuff assigned to hosts? I ask because I'm doing stuff with the file resource.
Yeah, it is RPM specific. The file resource isn't versioned in any way. I guess you could, build it yourself out of file names or something like that. But it potentially could.
Yeah.
It potentially could be added to anything that is versioned.
All right, let's
ideally
Puppet modules then. If you've got Puppet modules in a repo, in a pulp repo.
Right now, it doesn't support that, but it very well could. You would need some way to tie specific Puppet module versions to a host.
Of course.
But once you did that, it potentially would be feasible.
So the bit that does the calculation is simple. It's a question of knowing what's on the host to start with. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
And what's available to the host.
Thanks very much. So that was nice and quick. So we're going to move on, and it's Brad up next. If you're ready to go, Brad.
I am. Let me go ahead and share my screen. 1 second. Okay, so share my browser. So there's two quick things I wanted to show around improvements or enhancements on content views. The first one is around incremental updates. Incremental updates, for folks that are not aware, is a feature that was added a couple of releases ago, basically to allow from Patello users a mechanism to quickly deploy updates to their lifecycle environments so that they can minimize the time required to publish and promote content. So, like for example, I'm showing it in a content view app that has a version 2. It's been promoted through from library to dev to test to production. Now the case is I want to put a couple of packages or updates to production, but I don't want to go through the process of publishing and promote to get it there. I want the quickest possible way. So we provided that capability a couple of releases back, but one of the pieces of feedback that we got from users is that the incremental update, while nice and all, it didn't give them really a historical way to see what actually changed with the incremental update. So the request was to basically auto-generate a description that gives a summary of what they're actually going to see. So what I'm going to do is do an incremental update on version 2. So I'm going to create a version 2.1. I'm going to add some packages, errata, Puppet modules to it, and then we'll see that the description gets updated for historical purposes. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and change and go to the CLI here. Oops. So let me go share my. Okay, so my command line. The reason I'm going to do this from the command line is currently in the UI, you can do incremental update of errata, but we don't have the ability to do package IDs and Puppet modules yet. But we can do all of those from the command line. So that's what I'm going to show. So here what I've got is a content view version incremental update on version 2.0, which was ID 6. And I'm going to add to it another one errata, one package, and a couple of Puppet modules. And I'm going to have it deployed to environment 44, which is production. So we'll go ahead and let's kick that off. This will take probably about 30 seconds, I hope. There we go. So it's starting off. So it's going through the process. As this happens, once it finishes, it's going to give us kind of a summary to see really what changed. But historically, before the change I'm going to show, the user wouldn't have that for historical purposes. It was more or less output to the user and then stored in a task in the back end. Okay, so what I can see is I created a version 2.1. It added one errata. It pulled in 4 packages. I specified 1, but it pulled in 3 as based upon that errata. And I also updated 2 Puppet modules. So what I want to do now is we'll take a quick look at our UI again. And validate that essentially our version list now shows that as a summary. So we create a version 2.1 with the description with the exact same information that was output to the user. So as they come in, they look at these versions, they'll see it. But if they go in and they look at the history on the content view, they will also see it there as well. So it just gives them kind of an auto-generated. Now it should be noted that there is a description that the user could provide on their own as part of the command line interface. And if they provide one, we won't override it. But if they don't provide one, then we will provide this default. So that is the first feature or enhancement I wanted to show. The second enhancement is around composite content views. Composite content views is a mechanism, again, it's been there for a while. It's the ability to basically create a content view that is comprised of multiple other component content views. So in this case, I've got one I called composite. It has an app view and a tools view, and both of those have a version tied to them. What I can see now is actually the feature at play. So one of the feedback items that we got was when I go and I manually update one of these versions, like tools, like we just updated the app view, they had no visual representation or indication that a new version was available. So what they had to do is effectively come into the list of versions and then take a look at them and see what's there and decide if there's a newer one there and then select it. So what the request was is to basically provide a way for the user to see graphically, is a new version available? So as I look at this list of components, is there a new version available? And we see for the app view, there is, because we just published 2.1. So if I come in and select 2.1, save it, I'm now on the latest version. So this should give the user a quick way to come out and see whether or not they have all of their component content views on the latest version. And then once I select that, I could publish a new view if I'd like. And that is it. Any questions?
Well, let me just have a quick look for you. I don't see any just now, but do hang around and we'll see if any turn up, because obviously the stream is slightly delayed for everybody else. In the meantime, I think we'll move forward. Obviously, people with eagle eyes will have spotted the slight typo in my slide for you, Brad, because the first line looks very similar to Justin's, right?
Oh, it's okay.
But I'm sure we got the point. So that's great. Thank you very much for that. Hang around. In the meantime, we're going to move on to Partha with a last second save in getting onto the demo. So Partha, what have you got for us?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Sorry. So with atomic hosts, with atomic hosts that Patello and Foreman plugin Patello supports, you can now, they have the Red Hat atomic host has some special functionality which will let you use the entitlements of the host itself. So like if you're inside a rel container, so here's an atomic host. Let me go a little slower. So my terminal is running on an atomic host here, and you can see that if I do subscription manager identity, you can see that it is using it is actually using my satellite, my Patello installed in this org in this content view. Now let me show you what is in that content view. So here in my content view, I have a Yum repo here, an OpenStack platform tools with a bunch of packages in it. So here, for example, here are some of the packages in this version. Now, when I have a atomic host that is consuming this content view, and so if I now start a rel 7 container inside it, I'm able to use so for example, if I went to cd etc yum repos.d and Red Hat repo, if I did a Yum repo list, and Red Hat repo, and I notice that there is the rel 7 OpenStack tools repo that's available inside a container now. So I can enable this and do things like yum all. Yeah. Let's pick. So let's say, yeah, any package, Python -clip, sure, why not? So sorry, I had a typo there. So in an atomic host, now we are able, in a RHEL 7 container inside a Red Hat atomic host, we are now able to install and do yum operations and have it consume the subscriptions of the atomic host itself. So that's one of the new features we added, one of the new bug fixes we made. It's supposed to work that way when directly talking to the CDN, but with Patello it was not doing that, and so we added a fix to make that work. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to demo with the managing the RHEL 7 content. Basically, all I wanted to show is you are able to use the parent subscriptions to install and update and search. And are there any questions? Actually, let me show you the next topic also, because I'm doing I have a OS3 band search. I'll just show that one also, and then we can combine the questions.
Sure.
So there's a new, I added a OS3 branch search functionality, so you can actually search on things like, you can search across repositories, you can search OS3 repo branches that are available, and we have the same functionality for packages. It's the same thing for OS3 branches, so it's the similar search UI. So I think I have here I have a couple of OS3 repos here. There's one here. There's another one here. So if you actually looked at the branches here, so you're now able to search on this. You're able to search which of my products under what all repos have these branch information. It's a general user info. I think it's a thing that we do with everything else. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Not as yet. Just let me have a quick look around.
Just a sec.
Keep track of as ever. But no, at the moment, I don't see any questions for you. So that's absolutely fine. Thank you very much for that, Partha. So we're going to move on. We are running tight on times. If I can ask our last few presenters to keep to the sort of, well, I know Ori's is pretty fast actually, so that's fine. So up next we have Beav, who's going to give us some updates on the big upgrade, right? Let's face it, Puppet 3, Puppet 4, not fun. How are you making it easier for us?
Sure. Are you able to see my terminal?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. I have a not too fancy slide. Basically, Puppet 4 support is going to be in Patello 3.2, which is the upcoming release. And then on a fresh install, not an upgrade, you can select 3 or 4 based on which repos you have enabled. So it's not an installer option. It just selects, like if you have the Puppet 4 PC1 repo enabled and do the install, it will pull down Puppet 4. If you don't have the Puppet 4 repos enabled and just have Puppet 3, it will do Puppet 3. Also, the Puppet, if you have a Puppet 3 Patello, it can mix with Puppet 4. You can have that run with Puppet 4 capsules, and when you do the publish, it will figure out the publish location and all that. Also, vice versa, so you can have a mixed environment with like half Puppet 4 capsules, half Puppet 3, Puppet 3 Patello, Puppet 4 Patello. Most of the stuff we try to make it so it kind of auto detects at runtime which one is being used. If you want more information about this part, the documentation is now in the nightly docs, so you can just go to that link at the bottom, and it will take you there. So at this point, I'm just going to demo the upgrade from 3 to 4 using Foreman installer. So what we can do is, I'm going to shrink this by 1 actually. There we go. So if you try to do a upgrade along with the Puppet upgrade, you won't be able to, that won't work. You're going to need to do the upgrade first to say get on 3.2 or 3.x or 4.x or whatever. And then after your system's set up for that, then you can do the Puppet upgrade. So it's a 2-step process. We did that. It's actually technically possible to do them at the same time, but it can it's better to do one and then make sure everything's good. Take your backup or snapshot and then do the other. So at this point, I'm going to install the I'm going to enable the Puppet Labs PC1 repo, and then this gives access on the machine to the Puppet 4 content. And then I can do the upgrade at this point. So it takes a little bit of time to run, not too long though.
Well, while that's running, we do have a question about why, just maybe going and explain again why you need 2 steps to do the upgrade.
The first step was just for the to upgrade Patello itself. So let's say you're going from Patello 3.1 to 3.2. You'll want to upgrade from 3.1 to 3.2, ensure everything's running still with Puppet 3 with 3.2, and then upgrade Puppet. Mostly we did that from a just to make the steps more discrete as to when you update your server versus doing the Puppet upgrade. Because the Puppet upgrade, I mean, you can it's not tied into a server upgrade, so we just kept it as a separate step.
Cool. And you do the Patello upgrade first.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're going from 3.1 to 3.2, you go to 3.2, then go to Puppet 4.
Very well.
So this is probably at the step where it does updates for the for Puppet server and such. So we'll give it just a little bit more time.
So this is really just a safety argument to make sure each step's working correctly.
Exactly. Yeah, and also to give users a chance to take a VM snapshot or backup if they want to back things up.
Yeah, some of these things can be time consuming, right? So you might want another maintenance window for the Puppet upgrade or
exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah. So it looks like at this step it's stopping services, then it will run a few scripts and start them again. Shouldn't take too much longer, but oh, there it goes. So at this point, what it did was it stopped services, copied data from published locations from the Puppet 3 published location to the Puppet 4 published location, and then it's at this point it's applying configuration changes. And then once the configuration changes are complete, then it will start everything up again.
I will just take a look for more questions while that's running. Nope, nothing yet. Looks like we're almost there.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty close, so hopefully we've done it in just a second.
Silence on a demo. Gotta love it. Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be done soon. If we run short on time, basically I can kind of talk through the output at the end. Basically, it just performs the upgrade, restarts all services, and then at that point, actually, there's not much to see in terms of difference between like the web UI is the same, everything kind of works the same. Basically, the main difference is just using Puppet 4 instead of Puppet 3. So most of the changes are kind of under the covers after it's complete. So
same as what happened in 1.12, right? For
yeah
itself, it's like just work.
So if you want, we can move on. I'm fine with that. It's just gonna complete and then
you're just showing that it works, right? So,
exactly.
Let's daunting us with its 98%.
Yeah, so it might take a little bit longer. So I would say move on, and I can let you know at the end.
That's good. That's fine. I mean, I think we get the idea, right? It's, what's important.
Yeah, it always does that. So
we threaten it with leaving, and it's like,
yeah, that happens every time I get up. I'm like, oh, I'll get a coffee, and then then it's finished.
Are you done? Have you got anything else you want to add now that it's finished?
I think that's pretty much it, actually. So it just kind of runs through, and that's the end. So let me I'll unshare. So
superb. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for more questions, but in the meantime, thank you very much. So we'll move on. Next up, and I believe Ori's got quite a quick one for us. We're going to talk about the Use Puppet default button and some changes there.
Hey, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the Use Puppet default checkbox was changed into omit. It does the same functionality, so I'm not going to show it everywhere it exists. So it's still, if you click it, disables and will not send this to the ENC output. The help explained this a little more generically than Use Puppet default. The reasoning behind this is important. So before, Use Puppet default means not sending it to the ENC output, so that way Puppet will use its default value for this parameter. And we got requests to also be able to skip smart variables from the ENC output, but they obviously don't have Puppet default, which is why the name was changed. So the name is now omit, and the next step would be to also have this on smart variables, so you could, for a specific host, not send the variable that you're adding. In the API, we still have Use Puppet default, so we don't break, if someone is using it, the API with Use Puppet default, we won't break it, but it is deprecated, and we have the new omit there. That's it.
Superb. Thank you very much. Obviously, no questions yet because it's a bit of a stream delay, but it seems pretty straightforward and a good piece of logic. Can't argue with any of that. So that brings us, I think, to our final demo. So we're going to move on to Dimitri, who's going to be telling us a bit about the I've been chatting with Dimitri a bit over this one. I know how much effort he's put in. A fairly large rewrite to how we do the Microsoft DHCP provider and the proxy. Dimitri, are you with us?
Hey, you should, hopefully you can hear me and you should see my terminal screen.
Yes to both. Off you go.
Sounds great. All right, so functionality-wise, the rewrite is very much similar to the old provider that was relying on parsing shell output of commands. So I just gonna show you a few differences, and my apologies for the speed because I'm running Windows 2012 server in VM, so it's a bit slow. So the first thing you're gonna notice if you try, so if you're gonna ask details about a particular subnet, and I have 2 on this server, so it will come back. So here we are. So now you're actually going to see leases. And I know there was a PR that introduced that, but this is, again, this is using API. Because Microsoft API doesn't actually tell you about start of the lease, it only shows you the end date. So here we have this information. So state, again, it's something probably not very interesting to us. Another interesting thing, keep coming back, sorry. So if we're going to look at a particular reservation, or actually we can ask about leases as well now. But anyway, so let's take a look at the reservation. Let's see. 4,200. Again, just oops, sorry, that's going to be give it a moment. So, well, yeah, here we are. Oh, actually, yeah, it didn't show me that. So what I was trying to show you is that it can actually, I think this is the list. It shows you more DHCP subnet options now than before, and for the ones that we actually don't recognize. So yeah, for example, here for release. So domain name servers we do know, but there are a couple of options that smart proxy code doesn't actually know or care about, but they will still come back, but you're gonna see option IDs instead. So that's just to speed up the call and not actually try to retrieve detailed information about each option. But still, if you know the ID, this can be useful. And probably the last interesting thing is the unused IP call. So again, it's a bit slow here, but it's just a single call. So on a real machine, it will come back almost instantaneously. So here we get. And an interesting bit about it is that it actually respects exclusion IPs as well, and it returns IPs within a pool IP address pool. So I know there might be a bug report about that, but anyway, this change actually respects all of that. All in all, it's written using Microsoft native API, so there is a Ruby gem that this rewrite uses. All of the functionality except for the unused IP call is available on 2008 servers, or probably even some of the calls below that. Unused IP requires Windows 2012, just because the call is only available on that version of Windows Server. So yeah, I think, and in general, it should resolve quite a few issues we've been experiencing with Microsoft Provider, including some interesting ones, such as if you don't have English locale, you actually won't be able to use it. So because this is native API and we don't rely on parsing terminal output, this should present no issue. Anyway, that's me.
Thanks very much, Dimitri. That is wonderful, and I don't just see any questions for you right now, so that's fine. Which I think brings us to the end of the demo. A couple of small points before we wrap up. Firstly, if anyone is heading over to Ansible Fest in Brooklyn, let me know. We're going to have a small foreign representation there, and if there are more people going, we might be able to organize some kind of mini social or something. So do get in touch with me if you're going to be there. And finally, on a personal note, this broadcast almost exactly corresponds to me being 1 year in the post of community lead, which has been a lot of fun. I will be writing a blog post to summarize how that's felt for me, and to try and get some feedback from you guys about how you feel that this is going and where we should take it in the near future. That, however, is all we have for today. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do like the video. It lets me know to put more and more effort into this. Follow the channel to see what's coming up. I'm playing around with some live streaming options. We might do something like live streaming writing a plugin, which could be interesting now that I've got the video feed working. Otherwise, you can follow us on Twitter. You can find us on our mailing list. You can find us in IRC. Thank you very much for watching, and do take care.